The crystal wine glass exploded against the wall, missing my face by 3 inches. "Sign the damn papers, old man, or I'll make sure you regret it for the rest of your pathetic life." My daughter-in-law Ashley stood over me, her perfectly manicured finger jabbing toward the deed transfer documents she'd placed next to my dinner plate. $2.8 million. My house. My life's work. She wanted me to sign it all over between dessert and coffee. What Ashley didn't know was that I'd been 3 moves ahead of her since March, when I discovered she'd already forged my signature to steal $350,000 from my home equity. What she really didn't know was that every word coming out of her mouth was being recorded by the FBI. My name is Eddie Fitzgerald. 35 years tracking tax cheats taught me one thing. When family starts treating you like a walking checkbook instead of a human being, you better have evidence ready. Because blood may be thicker than water, but debt is thicker than both. This is the story of how my son's wife destroyed our family trying to pay off gambling debts to the mob, how she faked a pregnancy to manipulate us, how she'd been systematically robbing elderly people for years with help from their own doctor, and how I spent 6 months building the perfect trap to stop her. Fair warning, this gets ugly fast. We're talking federal charges, death threats, and the kind of family betrayal that leaves scars for generations. But stick with me, because the ending is worth it. And wherever you're listening tonight, I guarantee you know someone like Ashley. "Family takes care of family," she hissed, her voice shaking with rage. "We have a baby coming. We need this house." I looked at my son Nathan, frozen in his chair between us, then back at Ashley's fury-twisted face. "Ashley," I said, keeping my voice level, "this is my home. I'm not signing anything." That's when she grabbed the wine glass. The crystal shattered against Eleanor's favorite wallpaper, the pattern my late wife had picked out 35 years ago when we were young and stupid enough to believe family meant something. But here's what Ashley didn't realize. I'd been recording every conversation in this house since the day I caught her in her first lie. The same day, as it turned out, that she'd convinced a crooked doctor to forge medical records claiming I was mentally incompetent. Some betrayals cut deeper than broken glass. The conversation that followed would destroy her completely. Let me back up 6 months to when this all started. It was a Tuesday morning in March when I noticed the envelope from Summit Financial Corporation in my mailbox. I'd never done business with Summit Financial. In my line of work, you learn to pay attention to mail that shouldn't exist. The letter was addressed to Edward Fitzgerald, 1247 Maple Street. That part was correct, but the content made my blood run cold. They were confirming receipt of my mortgage application and looked forward to finalizing the $350,000 home equity loan as discussed. I'd never applied for any loan. I called Nathan that same morning. "Son, did you apply for a loan using my house as collateral?" "What? No, Dad. Why would I? What are you talking about?" His confusion sounded genuine. But then Ashley got on the phone. "Eddie, that's probably just some scam mail. You know how these companies send out pre-approved offers to older people. You should be more careful about what you open." The way she said older people stuck with me, like I was some confused senior citizen who couldn't tell junk mail from legitimate correspondence. But I'd spent 3 decades reading financial documents that people tried to hide from the IRS. You don't lose that skill when you retire. That afternoon, I drove to Summit Financial. The loan officer, a young man named Kevin, pulled up my file without hesitation. "Mr. Fitzgerald, good to see you again. How's Ashley?" She was so excited about finally moving forward with the home equity loan. "Again." Kevin said again, like we'd met before, like Ashley had been there in person, representing me. "I'm sorry," I said carefully, "but I think there's been some confusion. I never applied for a loan." Kevin's smile faltered. He pulled out a file folder thick with documents. Inside were copies of my driver's license, social security card, tax returns from the last 3 years, and a power of attorney document that bore my signature. Except I'd never signed it. The signature was close, very close. But after 35 years of examining forged tax documents, I could spot the telltale signs. The way the E in Edward looped slightly too high. The pressure variation on the Z in Fitzgerald. Someone had practiced my signature, but not perfectly. "Sir," Kevin said, "these documents were notarized by Susan Miller on March 10th. You and your daughter-in-law Ashley both signed them in this office." I'd never met Susan Miller. I'd never been in that office before that day. "Kevin," I said, "I'm going to need copies of everything in that file." That night I called my old colleague Stephanie Barnes, who'd left the IRS 5 years before me to practice elder law. I faxed her the documents. "Eddie," she called me back within an hour, "someone's setting you up for major fraud. The power of attorney alone is a felony. But if they actually funded this loan, they haven't yet. Kevin said they're waiting for some final verification." "Good. That buys us time. But Eddie, this isn't random. Whoever did this knows your financial situation intimately. They have access to your most personal documents. This is someone close to you." I looked across the living room at the family photo from Nathan and Ashley's wedding 4 years ago. Ashley in her white dress smiling at the camera. Nathan looking happy in a way I hadn't seen since his mother died. Ashley had moved into our lives slowly, carefully. She'd started dating Nathan just 8 months after Eleanor's funeral, when he was still grieving and vulnerable. She was charming, attentive, always asking about my work stories, my retirement plans, my legacy. I'd thought she was interested in our family history. Now I realized she was conducting reconnaissance. The loan documents showed that Ashley had provided Summit Financial with photocopies of Eleanor's death certificate, my retirement account statements, even the property tax records that showed our house was fully paid off. Information that someone would need to live in this house to access easily, someone like Nathan's wife. Over the next 3 months I watched Ashley more carefully, the way she'd volunteer to get my mail when I was in the shower, how she'd offer to help me organize my home office, always asking about my filing system, the casual questions about my will, my beneficiaries, whether I'd ever considered moving to a retirement community. And then there were the phone calls. Ashley would take calls in another room, speaking in hushed tones. When I asked Nathan about it, he'd shrug and say Ashley was building her real estate business. But real estate agents don't usually receive calls at midnight from people with gravelly voices asking about the timeline. By June, I'd documented everything: the forged power of attorney, the unauthorized loan application, Ashley's suspicious behavior. I'd even installed a small recording device in the dining room hidden inside Eleanor's antique china cabinet. All I needed was for Ashley to make her move. The pregnancy announcement came in August. "Dad," Nathan called, his voice shaking with excitement. "Ashley's pregnant. We're going to need more space." "We've been thinking, maybe it's time we all live together. You shouldn't be alone in that big house anyway." The pieces were falling into place exactly as I'd predicted, but Ashley was growing impatient. The Sunday dinner was Ashley's idea. "Families should spend more time together," she'd told Nathan, "especially now that we're expanding." She insisted on cooking my favorite meal, pot roast with mashed potatoes, the same recipe Eleanor used to make. It should have been touching. Instead, it felt like a funeral dinner. Ashley was different that evening. Nervous energy crackled around her like static electricity. She kept checking her phone, excusing herself to take work calls, even though it was Sunday night. Nathan seemed tense, too. He'd always been a talker during family dinners, updating me on his IT projects, asking about my volunteer work with the senior center. Tonight, he barely spoke. "Ashley's been working so hard," Nathan said during the main course, his words sounding rehearsed. "The real estate market is crazy right now. We need to make some big decisions about our future." Ashley reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Her palm was damp with perspiration. "Eddie, we need to talk about something important. Nathan and I have been discussing our situation. With the baby coming, we're going to need a larger space. And honestly, we're worried about you." "Worried?" I set down my fork and met her eyes. "About what?" "Living alone at your age. What if you fell? What if you had a medical emergency? Nathan and I think it would be better if we all lived together. We could take care of you, and you could help us with the baby." The concern in her voice was perfectly pitched. If I hadn't known what I knew, I might have been touched by her thoughtfulness. "That's very considerate," I said, "but I'm managing fine on my own." Ashley's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. "Dad," she said, using the title she'd adopted after marrying Nathan, "you're not getting any younger. This house is too much responsibility for one person. The property taxes alone must be eating into your fixed income." She was fishing, trying to get me to reveal details about my financial situation. But I'd been retired from the IRS for 7 years. I knew how much information people accidentally disclosed when they felt pressured. The taxes are manageable, I said simply. Nathan cleared his throat. Actually, Dad, Ashley and I have been looking at the numbers. If you signed the house over to us, we could handle all the maintenance, the taxes, everything. You'd still live here, of course, but it would be legally ours. There it was, the real proposal. They didn't want me to move out. They wanted me to hand over ownership while remaining as a dependent in my own home. That's an interesting idea, I said. But why the rush? We have plenty of time to discuss long-term arrangements. Ashley's fork clinked against her plate. She was losing patience. Actually, Eddie, we don't have that much time. I've been pre-qualified for several properties, but I need to move quickly in this market. The baby's due in 6 months. We need to know where we'll be living. A baby due in 6 months. That would make her about 3 months pregnant. But Ashley had been drinking wine throughout dinner. The thing is, Ashley continued, reaching into her purse, I've already had our family attorney draw up the paperwork. It's really just a formality. You'd maintain all your current rights to the property. She placed the deed transfer documents next to my coffee cup. The pages were crisp, freshly printed, with yellow sticky notes marking exactly where I should sign. Ashley, I said carefully, this seems premature. Shouldn't we discuss this with my attorney first? Her mask slipped for just a moment. I caught a flash of something cold and calculating in her eyes before the concerned daughter-in-law expression returned. Of course we could do that, she said, but lawyers are expensive and they'll just complicate something that's really very straightforward. Nathan and I have been researching this for months. We know what we're doing. Nathan nodded eagerly. Ashley's the expert here, Dad. She does this kind of thing for clients all the time. That's when Ashley made her first mistake. Eddie, I need you to trust us. Family takes care of family, and if you don't sign these papers tonight, well, there might not be another opportunity. The threat was subtle but unmistakable. Tuesday came faster than she expected. Monday morning, I called Kevin at Summit Financial again. Mr. Fitzgerald, Kevin said when he recognized my voice. Perfect timing. We just need one final signature to fund your loan. Can you and Ashley come in this afternoon? Kevin, I told you last time I never applied for this loan. Silence on the other end. I could hear keyboard clicking. Sir, I'm looking at your file right now. Ashley Coleman Fitzgerald submitted all the paperwork on March 10th. You signed the power of attorney, the loan application, everything. We've been waiting for 3 months for you to give final approval. What happens if I don't give approval? More typing. Well, sir, according to the power of attorney you signed, Ashley has legal authority to complete the transaction on your behalf. She was just being respectful by including you in the final step. My hands tightened around the phone. If Ashley had a valid power of attorney, even a forged one, she could potentially access the loan funds without my direct consent. Kevin, I need to speak with your supervisor immediately. 20 minutes later, I was in Carol Jensen's office. Carol was Summit Financial's regional manager, a no-nonsense woman in her 50s who reminded me of the IRS investigators I used to work with. Mr. Fitzgerald, Carol said after reviewing my file, this is highly unusual. According to our records, you and Ashley completed all the preliminary paperwork in March. We have copies of your identification, tax returns, even a letter from your physician confirming your mental competency. What letter? Carol flipped through the file and handed me a document on letterhead from Metro Health Associates. The letter, signed by Dr. Patricia Wells, stated that I had been examined on March 8th and found to be mentally competent and fully capable of making financial decisions. I'd never seen Dr. Wells on March 8th. I'd never even heard of Metro Health Associates. Carol, I said, I think someone is committing fraud using my identity. I'd like to place a fraud alert on this account immediately. Carol studied my face carefully. After 30 years in banking, she'd probably seen every kind of financial scam imaginable. Sir, if what you're saying is true, this isn't just fraud. This is potentially elder abuse and identity theft. I'm required to report this to authorities. Do it! Carol picked up her phone and dialed an extension. Detective Cooper? Carol Jensen at Summit Financial. I need you to come in immediately. We have a potential elder abuse case that's about to fund. While we waited for Detective Cooper, Carol walked me through the loan documents page by page. The application showed that I wanted to borrow $350,000 against my home equity to help my family purchase a new residence.
The money was supposed to be deposited into an account at First National Bank, an account I'd never opened. Who has signature authority on that First National account? I asked. Carol checked her notes. Ashley Coleman Fitzgerald and Nathan Fitzgerald, joint account holders. My stomach dropped.
Nathan's name was on the account, too. Detective James Cooper arrived within 30 minutes. He was younger than I'd expected, maybe 45, but he had the focused intensity of someone who took financial crimes seriously. Mr. Fitzgerald, tell me exactly what happened. I walked Detective Cooper through everything. The mysterious letter from Summit Financial, the forged power of attorney, Ashley's suspicious behavior, Sunday night's pressure tactics. I showed him copies of all the fraudulent documents. Detective Cooper examined the power of attorney carefully. This notarization is the key. Susan Miller's signature appears legitimate, but we'll need to verify that she actually witnessed you signing this document. I can save you time, I said. I've never met Susan Miller in my life. Sir, if Miss Miller notarized a document without witnessing your signature, that's notary fraud, a felony. And if Ashley presented false documents to obtain a loan, that's bank fraud, also a felony, Carol interjected. Detective, the loan hasn't funded yet. We've placed a hold on it pending this investigation. Good. Detective Cooper turned back to me. Mr. Fitzgerald, I need you to understand something. If your son Nathan is involved in this scheme, he could face serious criminal charges. Are you prepared for that possibility? The question hit me like a physical blow. Nathan had been quiet, compliant, but was he complicit? His name was on that bank account. He'd encouraged me to sign Ashley's papers. Detective, I said slowly, my son lost his mother 3 years ago. He's been vulnerable since then. I don't know if he's a willing participant or another victim. We'll find out, but right now I need you to go home and act normal. Don't let Ashley know that we've discovered the fraud. Can you do that? I thought about Ashley's threat the night before. There might not be another opportunity. How long do I have? Banking regulations require us to respond to loan applications within 30 days. Ashley submitted this application on March 10th. Today is June 2nd. She's probably getting desperate to close before we automatically reject it for taking too long. Detective Cooper handed me his card. Call me if Ashley pressures you again. And Mr. Fitzgerald, start documenting everything. Record conversations if possible. We're going to need evidence of her behavior to make charges stick. That evening, Nathan called. Dad, Ashley's really upset about last night. She feels like you don't trust us. Nathan, do you know why Ashley needs that money so urgently? Long pause. She says it's for the baby. For getting us set up properly. The loan officer's next words changed everything. Tuesday morning brought 2 phone calls that shifted everything into focus. The first came at 7:23 a.m. before I'd even finished my coffee. Ashley's voice was tight with barely controlled panic. Eddie, we need to talk. Can I come over? Of course. Is everything all right? Can Nathan and I come over around 9? There's something we need to discuss. The second call came at 8:15 a.m. It was Stephanie Barnes, my attorney. Eddie, I finished researching the documents you faxed me. This is worse than we initially thought. The power of attorney isn't just forged. It's been backdated to make it appear you signed it 6 months before Eleanor's death. That suggests long-term planning. What does that mean legally? It means whoever did this was laying groundwork for financial exploitation while your wife was still alive. That's premeditated elder abuse. But Eddie, there's something else. I ran Ashley Coleman's real estate license number through the state database. I grabbed a pen. What did you find? License RE 892156 was issued to Ashley Coleman on January 15, 2019. But here's the interesting part. She's had 3 formal complaints filed against her in the last 18 months, all from elderly clients who claimed she pressured them into making questionable property decisions. My hand stilled on the notepad. What kind of decisions? Reverse mortgages on properties that should have been kept in the family. Quick sales below market value. One complaint specifically mentioned her targeting vulnerable seniors who had recently lost spouses. The pattern was becoming clear. Eleanor had died in November 2021. Ashley started dating Nathan in July 2022, 8 months later. She'd moved in by Christmas 2022, giving her more than a year to study my financial situation. Stephanie, I need you to do something for me. Can you put a legal hold on any potential transactions involving my property? Already done. I filed a temporary restraining order this morning. Ashley can't access any loans or property transfers without court approval. But Eddie, if she's as desperate as these documents suggest, she might escalate. At exactly 9 a.m., Nathan and Ashley arrived. Ashley's usual composed demeanor was cracking. She kept checking her phone and running her hands through her hair. Nathan looked like he hadn't slept. "Dad, Ashley needs to tell you something." Ashley shot him a sharp look, then forced a smile. "Eddie, there's been a misunderstanding. When I prepared those papers Sunday night, I may have been a bit eager. The thing is, we're under some time pressure." "What kind of time pressure?" Nathan answered, before Ashley could stop him. "Ashley owes money to some people. A lot of money. They're not the kind of people who accept late payments." Ashley's face went white. "Nathan, that's not... You're making it sound worse than it is." "How much money?" I asked directly. Ashley hesitated, calculating how much truth she could afford to reveal. "It's complicated. I made some investments that didn't work out. Real estate deals that fell through. The short version is that I owe $180,000 to a private lending group." "Gambling debts," Nathan said quietly. "Dad, she's been gambling online. Poker, sports betting. I didn't know until last week." Ashley whirled on him. "It wasn't gambling, it was calculated investment. I had insider information on property developments. The deals were supposed to be guaranteed." The mask was finally slipping. The concerned daughter-in-law was disappearing, replaced by someone desperate and increasingly unstable. "Who are these lenders?" I asked. "That doesn't matter," Ashley said quickly. "What matters is that they want their money by Friday, if I can't pay them." She didn't finish the sentence, but Nathan did. "They threatened to hurt her, Dad, maybe hurt us. That's why we need to move quickly with the house." I understood now. Ashley hadn't just forged documents to steal my house. She'd put my entire family at risk to cover her gambling debts. "Ashley," I said carefully, "have you already tried to access the loan from Summit Financial?" Her eyes darted away from mine. "I may have initiated some preliminary steps." "What does that mean?" Nathan pulled out his phone and showed me a bank statement. "Dad, she opened an account at First National using both our names. She said it was for the baby's college fund. The account showed a pending deposit of $350,000 from Summit Financial Corporation, dated for Wednesday, tomorrow." "Ashley," I said, standing up slowly, "you forged my signature to steal $350,000 from my house, and you put my son's name on the theft." "It's not theft," Ashley's voice cracked. "It's family money. You're going to die someday anyway, and then Nathan inherits everything. I'm just accelerating the timeline." The statement hung in the air like a physical blow. Nathan stared at his wife, his face cycling through confusion, understanding, and finally horror. "Ashley," Nathan said quietly, "what have you done?" "I saved our lives." Ashley was fully unraveling now. "Those people I owe money to, they don't just break your legs, Nathan. They eliminate problems. Your father's house is the only asset big enough to cover what I owe them." I walked to my home office and returned with a folder. Inside were copies of all the fraudulent documents, Detective Cooper's business card, and Stephanie Barnes's restraining order. "Ashley, I've known about the forged power of attorney since March. I've been working with police and my attorney for 3 months. The loan you're expecting tomorrow has been frozen pending a fraud investigation." Ashley stared at the papers, her face cycling through disbelief, rage, and finally panic. "You can't do this to us," she screamed. "I'm pregnant with your grandchild." I handed her Dr. Patricia Wells's business card. "Funny thing about Dr. Wells, she's actually my family physician. I called her yesterday. She's never examined you, and she certainly never wrote a letter confirming my mental competency. But she'd be happy to confirm whether you're actually pregnant." Ashley's real estate license was about to become very expensive paperwork. Ashley's phone started ringing at 10:47 a.m., just as I was explaining to Nathan how his name had been used on fraudulent bank documents. The ringtone was aggressive, demanding. Ashley glanced at the screen and her face went ashen. "I have to take this," she said, moving toward the kitchen. "Take it here," I said firmly. "We're family, right? No secrets." Ashley's hands shook as she answered. "Tommy, I told you I'd have the money by Friday." The voice on the other end was loud enough for Nathan and me to hear clearly, male, gravelly, with a Brooklyn accent that suggested this wasn't Ashley's first conversation with questionable characters.
Friday was the original deadline, sweetheart. But my patience is wearing thin. You've been promising payment for 3 months. My associates are starting to think you're not taking this seriously. I am taking it seriously. The money is coming. I just need 2 more days. Ashley, let me paint you a picture. My friend Vince visited your husband's office yesterday. Nice building. Vince noticed that Nathan walks to his car alone every evening around 5:30. Real predictable schedule. Nathan's face went white. I could see him connecting the dots. His wife had put our entire family in danger to cover her gambling debts. You leave my family out of this, Ashley hissed. Your family is in this, sweetheart. You made that choice when you started doubling down instead of paying up. Now you owe $203,000 with interest. Full payment by Thursday, or Vince starts making house calls. The line went dead. Nathan was staring at Ashley like he'd never seen her before.
$203,000? Ashley, what the hell have you done? Ashley was hyperventilating. It wasn't supposed to be this much. I had inside information on a casino development deal in Atlantic City. The land values were supposed to triple, but the deal fell through, and Tommy's people don't accept market fluctuations as excuses for non-payment. Who is Tommy? I asked. Thomas Vitelli, Ashley said, her voice barely a whisper. He runs a private lending operation out of Newark. Very private, very unforgiving. I'd heard that name before. During my IRS years, I'd worked several cases involving Vitelli's organization. They laundered money through real estate transactions and charged interest rates that would make loan sharks blush. Ashley, I said, you borrowed money from organized crime to gamble on property deals? I didn't have a choice. Ashley was fully crying now. I was already in debt from previous investments. Tommy's loan was supposed to be my way out, but the casino deal was a setup. Someone fed me false information knowing I'd bet everything. Nathan stood up abruptly. Dad, I need to call work. If these people have been watching me... Good idea, I said. Then I turned back to Ashley. How long have you been gambling? It started small, online poker during slow periods at work, but I was good at it, really good. I was making more money gambling than selling real estate, so I started betting bigger amounts. And when you started losing? Tommy's people approached me. They said they could extend credit for promising real estate professionals. The interest seemed reasonable at first, 5% monthly. I figured I could pay it back quickly once my luck turned around. 5% monthly interest meant 60% annually. Even someone with Ashley's sketchy math skills should have recognized that as predatory lending. Ashley, Nathan said, returning from making his call. Security at my office says a man matching Vince's description has been asking questions about me for the past week. They've already contacted police. Ashley looked like she was going to vomit. This is all your father's fault. If he'd just signed the papers Sunday night, none of this would have happened. No, I said calmly. This is what happens when you forge documents to steal money from family members. But Ashley, there's something you need to know. I pulled out my phone and showed her a text message from Detective Cooper. Arrest warrant approved. Federal charges include elder abuse, bank fraud, identity theft, notary fraud. Will execute Thursday morning. Ashley read the message twice before the implications sank in. You can't have me arrested, she whispered. If I go to jail, Tommy's people will assume I cooperated with police. They'll kill Nathan to send a message. Then I guess you better figure out how to pay them back, I said. With what? You've frozen the loan. I don't have access to any money. Actually, Ashley, you do have one asset left. I walked to my filing cabinet and pulled out a folder labeled Real Estate License Investigation. Inside were copies of the 3 formal complaints against Ashley, along with correspondence from the State Licensing Board. License RE 892156 is currently under review for multiple violations of fiduciary duty, but if you voluntarily surrender your license and make full restitution to your previous victims, the state has indicated they'll consider criminal charges dismissed. Ashley's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. What previous victims? I never stole from clients. Mrs. Eleanor Hartman, age 78, pressured into a reverse mortgage that cost her family home. Mr. Donald Peterson, age 82, convinced to sell his property for 60% of market value. Mrs. Catherine Mills, age 75, talked into refinancing her paid-off house to buy investment properties that never materialized. Nathan was reading over my shoulder. Ashley, you've been targeting elderly people for years? Those were legitimate business transactions. I was helping people access their equity. You were practicing predatory lending, I said, and now you're about to face federal charges for elder abuse against me. Ashley's phone rang again. Tommy's number. She looked at the phone, then at Nathan, then at me. The notary public Ashley paid had one small problem. Ashley's second call with Tommy Vitelli was different. This time, she put the phone on speaker herself. Tommy, I need more time. The money is tied up in legal issues. Legal issues? Tommy's laugh was humorless. Ashley, sweet pea, legal issues are what happen to people who don't pay their debts. Vince and I don't deal with lawyers. We deal with solutions. Nathan and I exchanged glances. We were about to hear exactly how deep Ashley had dragged our family into danger. The thing is, Tommy continued, I've been doing some research on your family situation. Your father-in-law, Eddie Fitzgerald, lives at 1247 Maple Street property, worth $2.8 million according to county records. Seems like there should be plenty of money available. My blood ran cold. Tommy had done his homework. The old man isn't cooperating, Ashley said, shooting me a venomous look. That's unfortunate, because here's the thing. I've already extended your deadline twice based on your promises about family money. My reputation depends on people keeping their word. When they don't, Tommy let the threat hang in the air before continuing. I'll tell you what. Thursday is Valentine's Day. Very romantic. If you can't produce $203,000 by Thursday evening, Vince and I will pay a visit to that nice house on Maple Street. We'll have a conversation with Eddie about family responsibilities. The call ended. Nathan was pacing now, running his hands through his hair. Dad, these people are talking about coming to your house. We need to call the police right now. Nathan, I said carefully, there's something else we need to discuss. Detective Cooper found some irregularities in the financial documents beyond Ashley's forgeries. I pulled out another folder and handed Nathan a bank statement from First National. The account was in Nathan's name and Ashley's, but it showed transaction activity dating back 6 months. Nathan, did you know that Ashley has been depositing checks into this account since January? Nathan studied the statement. Monthly deposits ranging from $3,000 to $8,000, all from something called Sunset Property Management. I've never heard of Sunset Property Management, Nathan said. Ashley told me this account was for saving money for the baby. Ashley's face had gone from pale to gray. She knew exactly what those deposits represented. Ashley, I said, would you like to explain to Nathan what Sunset Property Management is? It's a legitimate business. I manage properties for elderly clients who need help with maintenance and rent collection. Interesting. I pulled out a printed email. Because I contacted Mrs. Eleanor Hartman, the 78-year-old woman you convinced to take out a reverse mortgage. She says you've been collecting $3,000 monthly from her reverse mortgage proceeds as management fees for a property she no longer owns. Nathan grabbed the bank statement. Ashley, you've been stealing from old people? It's not stealing. It's legitimate property management. These people don't understand complex financial arrangements. Complex financial arrangements? Nathan's voice was rising. You convinced a 78-year-old woman to mortgage her house and then kept charging her fees after she lost the property? I had more evidence. Mrs. Catherine Mills, the 75-year-old widow Ashley had talked into refinancing her paid-off house. The investment properties Ashley convinced her to buy turned out to be vacant lots in a flood zone. Ashley had been collecting $5,000 monthly in investment management fees, while Mrs. Mills struggled to make mortgage payments on her original home. Nathan, I said gently, your wife has been running an elder abuse scheme for at least 2 years. The deposits in your joint account total $127,000, money stolen from vulnerable seniors. Nathan sat down hard, staring at the bank statements. This means I'm an accessory. My name is on these accounts. I could go to prison. Ashley finally showed genuine emotion, but it wasn't remorse. It was rage. This is exactly why I didn't tell you, she screamed at Nathan. You're weak. You'd never have the spine to do what's necessary to secure our future. Secure our future by stealing from widows? Those old people are going to die anyway. Their money just sits in banks earning nothing. I was helping them access their equity while they could still enjoy it. Nathan looked like he'd been slapped. Ashley, do you understand what you're saying? You've been systematically targeting grieving seniors and stealing their life savings. I was building us a life. Ashley was fully unhinged now. Do you want to live in your father's shadow forever? Work your little IT job for $65,000 a year until you're old and useless like him? The insult stung, but I'd heard worse from tax evaders over the years. What concerned me more was Ashley's complete lack of remorse. She genuinely believed she was entitled to other people's money. Ashley, I said, there's something else. Detective Cooper ran a background check on you. Your real name is Ashley Palmer, not Ashley Coleman. You've been married twice before, both times to older men with significant assets. Both marriages ended with your husband's losing substantial money. Nathan stared at his wife. You were married before? Twice? Those were different situations, Ashley said quickly. Those men were users. They promised me things and then backed out when it was convenient. What did they promise you? Ashley's phone rang again. This time, it was a number I didn't recognize. Ashley looked at the screen, and her face went white. I have to take this, she said, but I held up my hand. Take it here. We're family, right? Ashley answered the call. Hello? Ashley Palmer? The voice was female, professional. This is Agent Linda Morrison with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. We need to speak with you immediately regarding multiple cases of elder fraud and identity theft. Nathan's mouth fell open. Ashley dropped the phone. The FBI, Nathan whispered. I picked up Ashley's phone. Agent Morrison? This is Edward Fitzgerald. Ashley is here with me at 1247 Maple Street. Mr. Fitzgerald, we've been working with Detective Cooper on your case. We're prepared to execute federal arrest warrants. Is Ashley still present? Yes, she's here. Sir, we need you and your son to leave the house immediately. Ashley Palmer is considered potentially violent and desperate. She's wanted in connection with elder abuse cases in 3 states. Nathan grabbed my arm. Dad, how did the FBI get involved? I looked at Ashley, who was now shaking uncontrollably. My son's signature was on documents he swore he'd never seen. Wednesday morning, Detective Cooper called at 6:30 a.m. with an unusual request. Mr. Fitzgerald, I need you to do something that might feel uncomfortable. I need you to call Ashley and offer to help her. Help her? She tried to steal my house. Here's the situation. The FBI traced Ashley's elder fraud operation across state lines. She's been running this scam for 4 years, targeting recently widowed seniors in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and New York. But they need her to incriminate herself on a recorded conversation to make the federal charges stick. Detective Cooper explained that they wanted to do a controlled call, a phone conversation where I would be wearing a wire while law enforcement monitored and recorded everything. Ashley's desperate now. She knows the FBI is closing in, and she still has Tommy Vitelli's people threatening her. If you offer her one last chance to get money, she might reveal details about her other victims. I understood the strategy. Ashley was trapped between federal investigators and organized crime. In that situation, people make desperate choices and say things they normally wouldn't admit. What do you want me to say? Tell her you've reconsidered. Say you're willing to sign over the house, but you need guarantees about Nathan's safety. Ask her to explain exactly how much money she needs and where it's going. Let her talk herself into a corner. At 2:30 p.m., I called Ashley from my kitchen phone while Detective Cooper and Agent Morrison monitored from a van parked across the street. The recording equipment was set up on my kitchen table. Eddie? Ashley answered on the first ring. Thank God. Nathan told me the FBI came to his office. This is getting out of hand. Ashley, I've been thinking about our situation. I don't want Nathan hurt because of family problems. Thank you. Ashley's voice broke with relief. I knew you'd come around. You're the only family Nathan has left. But I need to understand exactly what we're dealing with. How much money do you owe these people? The original debt was $180,000, but with interest and penalties, it's now $203,000. If I can pay that by Thursday night, everything goes back to normal. And if you can't pay? Ashley's voice dropped to a whisper. Tommy Vitelli doesn't make empty threats. Last month, a man in Newark was 3 weeks late on a $50,000 debt. They found him in the Passaic River. Detective Cooper was taking notes, documenting Ashley's admission that she owed money to a known criminal organization. Ashley, I'm willing to sign the house papers, But I need to know this ends the danger for Nathan. Are there other debts? Other people who might threaten our family? No, just Tommy. Well, and the FBI thing, but that's different. Tell me about the FBI. Ashley hesitated. I could hear her calculating how much to reveal. It's just a misunderstanding about some of my real estate deals. Some of my elderly clients are claiming I took advantage of them, but that's not what happened. What did happen? I helped them access their home equity during their lifetimes instead of leaving it sitting there unused. Mrs. Hartman was living in a house worth $400,000 while eating canned soup because she couldn't afford groceries. I helped her tap into that equity so she could live comfortably. And you charged management fees for that help? Of course, I'm a licensed professional. Professional services cost money. Detective Cooper was nodding. Ashley was admitting to exactly the predatory practices that form the basis of the federal charges. How many elderly clients have you helped this way? 7 or 8 over the past few years, all legitimate transactions. The FBI is just responding to complaints from ungrateful family members who are angry that there's less inheritance money for them. 8 victims, more than Detective Cooper had initially identified. Ashley, if I sign the house over to you, what happens to Nathan legally? His name is on that bank account with money from your clients. Nathan didn't know anything about the business side. I kept him out of it to protect him. The account was just for convenience. I needed somewhere to deposit checks while I figured out long-term investments. Ashley was creating a legal defense for Nathan while simultaneously confessing to federal crimes. One more question, Ashley. After you pay off Tommy Vitelli, what's your plan? The FBI investigation won't just disappear. Ashley's voice turned cold and calculating. That's where you come in, Eddie. Family protects family, right? Ashley had one more chance to tell the truth. What do you mean that's where I come in? I asked Ashley, though I suspected I already knew the answer. Eddie, you're a 74-year-old man with early signs of memory problems. At least that's what your medical records will show after Dr. Wells updates your file. Dr. Wells. Ashley was talking about my family physician, the same doctor whose forged letter had appeared in the Summit Financial loan file. Ashley, are you suggesting that Dr. Wells falsify my medical records? Dr. Wells is very understanding about the needs of elderly patients and their families. For a reasonable consulting fee, she's willing to document progressive cognitive decline that would make you vulnerable to financial exploitation. Agent Morrison was leaning forward in the surveillance van, listening intently. Ashley was confessing to conspiracy and medical fraud in addition to elder abuse. You've already spoken with Dr. Wells about this? Of course. How do you think I got the mental competency letter for your loan application? Patricia and I have a business relationship. She provides medical documentation, and I refer wealthy elderly clients to her practice. How many elderly clients? All of them. Eleanor Hartman, Donald Peterson, Catherine Mills. Patricia has been documenting their declining mental capacity for months. It makes the financial arrangements much easier when families can show that their elderly relatives weren't competent to make decisions. Detective Cooper was writing furiously. Ashley was implicating Dr. Wells in a systematic scheme to abuse elderly patients. Ashley, are you saying that Dr. Wells creates false medical records to help you steal money from her own patients? It's not stealing, Eddie. These people need professional management of their finances. Patricia identifies patients who are struggling with complex financial decisions, and I step in to help them access their assets in a responsible way. By convincing them to mortgage their homes and pay you management fees? By helping them monetize their largest asset while they're still alive to benefit from it? Do you know how many elderly people die with hundreds of thousands of dollars in home equity that they never got to enjoy? Ashley's rationalization was breathtaking. She genuinely believed she was providing a service while stealing people's life savings. What about Tommy Vitelli? How does he fit into your business model? Tommy was supposed to be a short-term bridge loan. I had 3 major deals closing in Atlantic City that would have generated enough profit to pay him back with interest. But the deals fell through because of market manipulation. Market manipulation? Ashley's voice turned bitter. Someone with inside information sabotaged the casino development deal. They knew I was betting heavily on the land values, and they deliberately leaked false information to crater the project. Who would do that? Nathan's ex-girlfriend, Melissa Torres. She works for the planning commission that approves casino developments. We had a disagreement about Nathan's future, and she decided to get revenge. This was news. Nathan had never mentioned an ex-girlfriend with connections to Atlantic City planning commissions. Ashley, you're saying that Nathan's ex-girlfriend deliberately cost you $180,000? She cost me everything. I had inside information about the casino project directly from her office. The land values were supposed to triple within 6 months. Instead, the project got canceled, and the land became worthless. Agent Morrison was making hand signals to Detective Cooper. Ashley's confession was revealing a much larger conspiracy involving municipal corruption and insider trading. How did you get inside information from Melissa Torres? She was still in love with Nathan. I convinced her that sharing development information would help Nathan's financial future. She thought she was helping him by giving me investment tips. But you were using her information to gamble with Tommy Vitelli's money? I was making strategic investments based on reliable intelligence. It should have worked perfectly. Ashley's phone started buzzing with text messages. She glanced at the screen and her voice became panicked. Eddie, Tommy's people are getting impatient. They're asking for proof that the money is coming. I need you to sign those house papers today. Ashley, if I sign the house over to you, what happens to Dr. Wells? What happens to your other elderly clients? None of that matters if Tommy's people kill us. Eddie, you don't understand how dangerous these men are. They've already sent Vince to scout our neighborhood. He knows what car Nathan drives, what time you get your mail, everything. How long have they been watching us? 2 weeks, ever since I missed the second deadline. Tommy wanted to make sure the family assets were real before he decided whether to extend more time or start sending messages. Detective Cooper was on his radio, coordinating with other units. If organized crime figures were surveilling my neighborhood, they needed to adjust their arrest strategy. Ashley, here's what I don't understand. You've been stealing from elderly people for years. You've corrupted a doctor, manipulated your husband, forged my signature, and borrowed money from criminals. At what point did you think this would end well?
Ashley was quiet for a long moment. I thought, she started, then stopped. I thought I was smart enough to stay ahead of it all. I thought I could manage the risks and build something permanent for Nathan and me. And now? Now I realize that Nathan married his father. You're both too weak to do what's necessary when survival is on the line. She confessed to crimes I hadn't even discovered yet. There's one more thing you need to know, Dad. Nathan's voice was barely a whisper. We were sitting in Detective Cooper's office Thursday morning, reviewing Ashley's recorded confession from the day before. She'd been arrested at 6 a.m. without incident. Nathan, you've been through enough. Whatever Ashley did, it's not your fault. Actually, Dad, it is my fault. Not the way you think, but... Nathan pulled a thick folder from his laptop bag. I've been investigating Ashley for 3 months. I know about Mrs. Hartman, Mrs.
Mills, all of them. I stared at my son. You knew? In February, a woman named Eleanor Hartman called our house looking for Ashley. She was crying, saying Ashley had promised to help her, but instead she'd lost her home. I started asking questions. Nathan opened the folder. Inside were bank statements, property records, copies of Ashley's client contracts, even photographs of Ashley meeting with elderly clients. I've been documenting everything. The fake medical records from Dr. Wells, the money transfers, even Ashley's gambling addiction. I hired a private investigator. Detective Cooper leaned forward. Nathan, why didn't you contact authorities? Because I was trying to protect Dad. If Ashley was arrested for elder abuse, I knew she'd claim that Dad was involved somehow. She's manipulative enough to make it look like he knew about her schemes. Nathan pulled out a legal document. 3 weeks ago, I filed for divorce. I also opened a separate bank account and moved my legitimate money out of the joint account Ashley was using for stolen funds. Does Ashley know? She's about to find out. My attorney is serving papers this afternoon. But Dad, there's something else. Something Ashley doesn't know. Nathan showed me a recording device, similar to the one Detective Cooper had used for our controlled call. I've been recording Ashley's phone conversations for 6 weeks, including her calls with Tommy Vitelli and Dr. Wells. I have evidence of everything, the gambling debts, the medical fraud, even her conversations about targeting you specifically. Agent Morrison entered the room carrying a thick file. Nathan, we're going to need those recordings for the federal case. Dr. Wells was arrested this morning at her clinic. We found falsified medical records for 17 elderly patients. 17.
Ashley's scheme was even larger than we'd imagined. "There's more," Nathan continued.
Remember Ashley's story about Melissa Torres sabotaging her casino investment? I tracked down Melissa. She never gave Ashley inside information about anything. The casino deal was always a scam. Ashley borrowed money from Tommy Vitelli to invest in property that never existed. I felt pieces clicking into place. So Ashley was lying about why she lost the money. She was lying about everything. There was no inside information, no real estate deals, no market manipulation. Ashley took Tommy's money and gambled it away on online poker sites. When she couldn't pay him back, she invented the casino story and decided to steal your house to cover her losses. Detective Cooper was shaking his head. So Ashley committed elder abuse, medical fraud, identity theft, and bank fraud to cover up a gambling addiction. It gets worse, Nathan said. Ashley wasn't even pregnant. I found the fake pregnancy test kit in her car. She bought it online along with hormone supplements that would produce positive results on home tests. The fake pregnancy was Ashley's way of manipulating both Nathan and me into supporting her claims about needing money for the baby. "Nathan," I said slowly, "you've been protecting me this entire time? I learned from watching you, Dad. You always said the best way to catch someone lying about money is to give them enough rope to hang themselves." Nathan had been playing chess while Ashley thought she was manipulating checkers pieces. My son had been protecting me all along. 6 months later, I'm sitting in the community center where I teach financial self-defense for seniors every Tuesday evening. Tonight's class has 12 students, all between 68 and 84 years old. Mrs. Catherine Mills is here. She got her house back after Dr. Wells's medical fraud was exposed and the reverse mortgage was declared invalid. Mr. Donald Peterson comes every week bringing other seniors he's met who've had helpful real estate agents show up at their doors. The most important thing to remember, I tell my students, is that legitimate financial advisors never pressure you to sign documents immediately. Anyone who says, "We need to do this today or you'll lose the opportunity," is usually lying. Mrs. Mills raises her hand. "Eddie, what happened to that Ashley woman?" Ashley was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison for elder abuse, medical fraud, and conspiracy. Dr. Wells received 12 years. Tommy Vitelli and his associate Vince were arrested for extortion and money laundering. Apparently, Ashley's case led the FBI to a much larger criminal operation. Justice was served, I tell the class, but more importantly, all of Ashley's victims got their money back. Nathan paid full restitution to every elderly client Ashley had defrauded, using funds recovered from Ashley's hidden accounts and the sale of her assets. It cost him his savings, but as he said, family cleans up family messes. Nathan's divorce was finalized in November. He's been dating a teacher named Sarah who volunteers at the senior center. She knows the whole story and isn't fazed by it. "Everyone has ex-wife drama," she told him. "Yours just happened to involve the FBI." After class, I drive home to 1247 Maple Street. The house feels different now, not empty, but peaceful. Nathan stops by every Sunday for dinner, and sometimes Sarah comes too. We're rebuilding trust slowly, the way it should be built. I've established new rules for my finances. Any transaction over $5,000 requires approval from both Nathan and Stephanie Barnes, my attorney. My will has been updated to include provisions that protect against financial exploitation. And I've set up a trust fund for seniors who've been victims of elder abuse, seed money to help them hire attorneys and recover stolen assets. Some lessons cost $2.8 million to learn, but most of us learn them for free if we're paying attention. Before you go, I want to ask you something. Have you checked on the elderly people in your family lately? Not just called to say hello, but really looked at their financial situation? If someone you love seems confused about money or mentions helpful new friends, pay attention. If this story happened in your town, what would you do? Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Trust must be earned daily, but it can be destroyed in an instant.